The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Jordan Davis breakout is here, and somehow, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
After the worst first half of Philadelphia Eagles offense I have seen since the Sam Bradford-led team of 2015, somehow the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0 and won this football game over the Los Angeles Rams. I think the second best team in the NFC, 33-26. I need a second. I need to breathe. That might be, from start to finish, the most, and there's been a lot of roller coaster rides as an Eagles fan over the years. We've had some toxic wins that have had us feeling this exact way, but considering how bad that offense looked in the first half and the first drive of the second half, to then see where they went the rest of the way for a quarter and a half and how that game ended, I may have not seen a crazier football game my entire life. I'm in awe of what just happened. The Philadelphia Eagles somehow blocked back-to-back field goals to win this football game. The resolve, the fight of this team, the unwavering resolve, the chemistry, the tight-knit locker room, the ability to battle through adversity. You know, I thought that 2017, 2018, 2019 era of Eagles football, I thought those teams, when they were backed into a corner, found a way over and over again in just unbelievable fashion. But what this core is doing is topping that. I cannot believe they won that football game. And there are so many reasons that they were able to pull this off. And we're going to talk about the passing game because that was a tale of two halves. And I think that's going to go down as the most important win of the season. It was the wake-up call this offense, this passing game specifically needed. But Jordan Davis, he's the player we have to start with. Everybody, the breakout is here. That Dexter Lawrence Vita Vea-like breakout that I continuously said over and over again needs to happen for that first-round pick trading up for JD to be worth it, for him to reach that ceiling that they spent on him in the first round, that they banked on. He needed to become a more well-rounded player. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that well-rounded player is here. Jordan Davis stops them on 4th and 1, a turnover in Eagles territory to get the ball back, down 5. Then he and Jalen Carter block a field goal. The following drive, the Rams have a game-winning field goal, pretty much a chip shot from that range as time expires, and Jordan Davis not only blocks it again, but takes it to the house for a touchdown. I've never seen a game end with blocked field goals, back-to-back blocked field goals. I mean, it's unbelievable. I have to collect myself. I've never seen something that crazy. And to see what Jordan Davis did, 3 turnovers in the second half, in the fourth quarter, to keep the Eagles alive when there were so many times the offense was just trying to lose this football game. JD specifically would not let this football team die. And he had an incredible first 2 games of the season against the Cowboys, against the Chiefs. He's been a great pass rusher. He's still been an elite run stopper. But this game, you won because of Jordan Davis. He looked like one of the best players in the world today with the way he stopped Kyren Williams on 4th down, with the way he chased down Matt Stafford on another 3rd down to force the Rams to punt in the second half. There are 4 different drives where the Rams did not score and the Eagles stayed alive because of JD. Thank God he was on that Peloton all summer, because the conditioning, the development of this kid it's here. I mean, and he's in a contract season, right? I mean, they picked up the 5th-year option, but he is going to get paid this offseason if he continues to play like this. And to have a walk-off blocked field goal that he then picks up on his own and runs it in for the touchdown, Jordan Davis of 2024, of 2023, of 2022 is not doing that. I mean, the step that kid has taken is unbelievable. And it wasn't just him. I mean, Jalen Carter was the first to block that field goal. This defense, over and over again, as I alluded to, just would not let this football team die. And that's really the theme of this Eagles core. of this era since 2021 is just the never say die ability to overcome adversity, even in a game like this that, again, it felt like a new low. I mean, I wasn't ready to sound the alarms and call for people's jobs like I did last year after the Tampa Bay loss. But guys, that first half, I don't know if you agree, that first half felt worse than what we watched last year, week 4 in Tampa Bay. The Eagles were just abysmal on the offensive side of the football, but the defense kept hanging on, kept holding the Rams to field goals in the first half, and then getting turnovers in the second half, doing whatever they have to do, blocking field goals, chasing down the quarterback, making big-time plays on third down. Unbelievable. I mean, hats off to so many different players, but Jordan Davis specifically, I cannot believe how good he was again today. This football team somehow is 3-0, and what a massive win over a team in the Los Angeles Rams that I truly believe this could be a preview of the NFC Championship. This is the other team, and of course Green Bay is still very good, although they lost today to Cleveland. Green Bay is going to be up there too, but I think these two teams are going to be the ones that are fighting for that one seed in the NFC, and to now have that head-to-head tiebreaker is massive moving forward, to have home field advantage. Unbelievable. So shout out to all you guys in the chat. This is one of the moments I'm very appreciative of doing this show and being an Eagles fan, because I will never forget that football game. It was the most miserable first half I've watched. I'm not going to lie, probably since, I would say probably 2020, maybe not 2015, but it's been at least 5 years, maybe a decade, with how miserable I was watching that football team in the first half. To then score 26 points in the second half to only 7 by the Rams. Like, hats off to the offense for waking up. We're going to talk about them in the second segment, but I wanted to start with the defense, because the defense has been carrying this football team all season long. And the fact that they're the youngest defense in the league and they have this kind of resolve, this kind of clutch gene, is truly unbelievable. I mean, Jalen Carter was everywhere today. Zach Bond had an interception in the first quarter, had 3 big-time forced incompletions in the first half, multiple big run stops. Zach Bond was unbelievable today. Nolan Smith was great against the run. Quinyon Mitchell had some big plays on Devontae Adams, including a deep incompletion in the fourth quarter. Cooper DeJean made some big tackles. It was the whole defense, but it was specifically the Georgia guys on the interior, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, like your 2 first-round picks of the 2022 and 2023 NFL draft. And you can also include Nolan Smith in there as well. I think they're the reason you won this football game today. Obviously, Jalen Hurts' insanely clutch second half was a main part of it too. But the Eagles did not get the 2-point conversion, and I thought that was going to be all she wrote. Only up 1, and it felt like that was it when they kept targeting Ja'Cory Bennett over and over again. Matt Stafford just kept going at him, and it got them in field goal range. And they block a field goal. Not 1, but 2. And back-to-back drives in a 1-score game against the second-best team in the NFC. Do you not see how massive that is? Like, to pull that off after what you've already done this year, beating the Chiefs and Cowboys, to be 3-0 right now, I'm telling you right now, this is going to go down as the most important win of the season. Not just because of what the defense was able to do, and this shows how battle-tested they are, that they have just that championship-level clutch gene in them, in this roster, and it shows that this team is never out of it. Like, they're never going to give up. That's just how Nick Sirianni has this locker room, right? And that's just the makeup of all these players coming from Georgia and Alabama, and just the maturity of all. They're young on defense and offense, but as I've said for years now, this team is wise beyond their years. And I think it's going to go down as the most important game of the season too, because the passing game was able to not only wake up, but dominate. They were horrible in the first half, and they were incredibly elite in the second half, and it's going to pay dividends moving forward down the stretch of this season, because without that kind of wake-up call, I don't know if this football team can win a championship.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
John Mateer came through in the clutch. The Oklahoma Sooners defense dominated.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners.
The Oklahoma Sooners had a great day on the defensive side of the ball. Some of the raw numbers might indicate otherwise. Some of the big plays allowed might indicate otherwise. But Oklahoma's defensive front seven absolutely wrecked Auburn's offensive line, their run game, their pass game. It was a great performance. There will be other things that try to take over the narrative of this football game. But really what it came down to is in the second half, and really throughout this whole game, but in the second half in particular, when Oklahoma's defense needed to step up, they did. And they continued to make life incredibly difficult for Auburn. Auburn was able to get some big plays through the first half. Cam Coleman was absolutely awesome. He made some plays in the second half. The defensive pass interferences were a wonderful play call for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. But ultimately, it came down to Oklahoma got this game in a script that they want to play in. Get a lead, have a lead late in the fourth quarter at any point in time, and let your pass rush go to work. I mean, the pass rush was great throughout. Obviously, 9 official sacks. One was taken off the board after the officiating crew, I guess, mistakenly attributed a sack to Marvin Jones Jr. on the horse collar. Whatever. 9 sacks on the day and several tackles at the line of scrimmage that would have been sacks had he not made it back to the line of scrimmage. Oklahoma's defensive front, from Marvin Jones Jr. to Taylor Wine to R. Mason Thomas to PJ Adebaware, Danny Okoye, David Stone, Jaden Jackson, Dominic Williams, Grayson Halton. That group was awesome. Absolutely awesome. Lived up to the billing of best defensive line in the SEC, best defensive line in the nation. That's what we were looking to see. A complete performance from that group up front. They got hit for like one big run play after a missed tackle for a 44-yard gain. They got hit for another couple runs that were big or beyond 10 yards, but that was about it. Ultimately, they only allowed 1.9 yards per carry when you include all the sack yardage. You take that 44-yard run off the board, and they allowed less than 3 yards per carry again. Good defenses sometimes get hit for a big play. That's the way it goes. But again, I come back to this. In the fourth quarter, when your defense needed to get stops, when your defense needed to make plays, they made the plays. They gave up that one touchdown on a long drive by the Auburn Tigers, but again, aided by some penalty yardage, aided by a really nice Jackson Arnold scramble for first down on, it was like 4th and 11, I think. Kind of brought back shades of the Adrian Martinez 3rd and 16 run. Sometimes you lose contain against athletic quarterbacks. That's just the way it goes. But throughout the game, generally speaking, Oklahoma's defensive front did a great job maintaining contain, keeping Arnold in the pocket, making him uncomfortable, either when they blitzed, when they rushed just 4. Because when they rushed just 4, they were just absolutely kicking Auburn's tail up front with their stunt combinations, even with just individual pass rushes. Like at the end of the game, when Auburn's trying to rally to go tie the game, they're just rushing 4 on those last 2 sacks. And Grayson Halton absolutely blows up Jackson Arnold. And then R. Mason Thomas absolutely blows up Jackson Arnold for the safety. And Oklahoma probably could have won just rushing 4 throughout. But Brent Venables, he's an aggressive defensive coach, aggressively minded, and he's going to come after those quarterbacks. And generally it made Jackson Arnold uncomfortable. And were it not for some really great catches by Cam Coleman and really great positioning by him, pass interferences against Cortland Guillory, then you're likely talking about maybe a more impressive Oklahoma defensive effort. Cam Coleman is just one of the best wide receivers in the country, maybe the best wide receiver in the country. The guy went Randy Moss. I said it in a group chat that the only way Auburn wins this game is if Cam Coleman goes Randy Moss against the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day forever ago. And he kind of did. He kind of went Randy Moss on Oklahoma. Now, he didn't end up with the 3 touchdowns and the 140 something receiving yards, but he had a great day. And there will be discussions, I'm sure, that Cortland Guillory's not ready, blah, blah, blah. But that's a true freshman going up against one of the best wide receivers in college football and was right with him. Yeah, he got a little grabby and got called for it, but he's going to get better. He's going to learn from all that. Those are the big challenges you want him to face. The coaching staff certainly felt comfortable leaving him on an island against that guy. So they have high expectations and high thoughts of Cortland Guillory. He's going to continue to get better. Front to back, the defense, I thought, really played a great game as a whole. Billy Bowman, I thought, had a wonderful game. Several opportunities for big plays. Had almost an interception, but, got a little over exuberant and just overran the ball. But, yeah, I mean, so many dudes with great performances. Jaden Jackson had 2.5 sacks in this game. All of last year, he had 2 sacks. So that dude's stock continues to go up, continues to trend in a really positive direction with 2.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. David Stone, my goodness, dude, where you came out of nowhere. This is the breakout game for David Stone. Ended up with a big day himself. 5 total tackles and a sack. 4 of those were solo tackles. Dude, David Stone breakout game was ready, man. He was ready for this one. And I mean, absolutely blowing up Auburn's offensive line throughout. Dominic Williams had a really good game. I thought the guys on the edge played well for the most part. Adepoju Adebawore just on the jet sweep touchdown by Malcolm Simmons. If PJ just kind of breaks down and continues to stretch that play wide, that's not a touchdown. He's not going to get beat to the wide side, but he kind of loses his feet, dives at the guy, and doesn't have great technique, and they're able to score. But if he just kind of stands up and keeps running with him wide and continues to stretch that play out to the sideline, it's probably going to run out of bounds or maybe even be a tackle for loss eventually. But or if he maintains contain and forces it back inside, they might get a tackle for loss there too, because there was another Oklahoma defender there. But again, this guy had to play a lot more because R. Mason Thomas was out. But overall, I thought he played well. And I thought the defensive line, again, as a whole, Todd Bates group, Miguel Chavis group, they played sound football in this one. And that's what helped Oklahoma get this win. The linebacker core with Kip and Kobe McKenzie and Samuel Masigo and Owen Heineke, I thought played well again. Those guys are just really, really good. That's a really good foursome. Kendall Daniels played really well. Kip Lewis ended up leading the team in total tackles with 10, 3 solo, half a sack, and a tackle for loss. So, yeah, defensively, man, this team can go win you a lot of football games. And they're going to. They're going to keep Oklahoma in a lot of football games, and they're going to outright win some football games for Oklahoma. The schedule remains tough. We'll break that down, I'm sure, as we continue to go along. Oklahoma's going to have a bye week next week, a chance to regroup, refresh, re-energize, get a little bit healthier, and then get ready for Kent State. But defensively, I mean, it's A+ marks for Oklahoma through 4 games in the season, in my opinion.
The Cleveland Browns can thank their defense for delivering their first win of the season.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast.
I would be remiss if I did not start this conversation, this post-game conversation, after one of the most improbable Browns wins in probably franchise history, but also in certainly recent history for Browns fans who have been following this team as long as many of you have. And as bad as things have been the last couple of years, this one stands out as one of the more remarkable and crazy wins that we've ever seen. And the fact that it went in the Browns' favor, because these are the types of games that normally the bounces don't go the Browns' way. So many of you listen to the show that follow this team, you're so used to the pain and heartbreak of the Browns being on the receiving end of a blocked field goal, right? Like the Ravens back in, I think, was it like 2011, 2010, whatever that was. There's so many moments like that. And for the Browns to then be on the receiving end of all the right bounces, a blocked field goal, an interception that sets up a touchdown to tie the game, and then they hit a game-winning field goal, it was long overdue. And so I'm thrilled for the fact that the Browns fans get to celebrate this one. But as I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with the fact that this defense, or this Browns win to get to 1-2 on the season and stave off an 0-3 start, was delivered by the Cleveland Browns defense. Like, if I could add, I don't mess with sponsors here at the network. That's above my pay grade. I just read the sponsors and use the sponsors so that I can talk about them on the show. But if I could add a sponsor to the board this week for this show, it would this would be sponsored by the Browns defense. They were brilliant today for the third straight week. I understand they had the floodgates kind of opened on them in that game in Baltimore last weekend. I think that was just so much stress put on them from the miscues and mistakes from the offense and the special teams lapses last week that it was bound to happen eventually. And to have it happen against a Ravens team that's a Super Bowl contender obviously makes some sense. But for the third straight week, this defense was absolutely fantastic. And, borderline, this is like the performance from today and these first 3 weeks combined generally, it is like, Ravens in 2000, the year they won the Super Bowl level stuff. I mean, it is just remarkable what this group is doing. And I'll rattle off just some of the stats here that sort of stood out in my mind. Obviously, the 10 points allowed. Cleveland's defense held the Packers to 230 yards of total offense. That's it. 81 of those came on the ground, so under 100 yards rushing. 149 came through the air. Nobody's run over 100 yards on this Browns team through the first 3 weeks. The Green Bay averaged going into that fourth quarter 3.5 yards per play. By the end of the game, that mark only had jumped to 3.8 yards per play after a couple productive drives by Green Bay to get down and score the touchdown, obviously, and then get into field goal range to potentially win it. And we know what happened. The Packers only crossed the 50 3 times in this game. And it was the 2 scoring chances they had where they actually scored, and then the potential game-winning field goal that was blocked. 6 different players, including Myles Garrett, Malik Collins, Carson Schlesinger, Mason Graham, Aiden Huntington, and Alex Wright, all had a hand in the 6 sacks that the team had on the day in general. I mean, that is as dominant as it gets. The numbers speak for themselves. They were incredible once again. And I can't say enough about how brilliant they've been through these first 3 weeks, but certainly in today's game. And by the way, when they needed a play, when the offense needed, when this team needed the defense to give you some sort of spark, which is the one thing that I thought could maybe tip the game in their favor this week, was if the defense actually gave you a play that led directly to a touchdown, right? They gave it to you. They've talked for weeks, really since last year. They've talked about this idea that the turnovers were going to they were going to come eventually. They were going to have turnovers eventually. And finally, you saw Grant Delpit bait Jordan Love into the interception. It was a beautifully executed coverage. I think he thought he would kind of run with, I think he was targeting Kraft on the play. And I think he thought he was just going to run with Kraft and sort of the crosser. And he didn't. He stayed put, read it perfectly, jumped in front of it, picked it off, and then took it back to the 4-yard line to set the offense up with an easy opportunity to score. And that's what I mean by like gifting a touchdown to the offense. That's what it takes for this offense basically to score touchdowns at this point, is to give them short fields, give them opportunities where they can just punch it in pretty quickly. And the defense basically hand-delivered you a touchdown, and they finished the drive, tied the game up, and then that set the stage for everything else that transpired. I get that the last 2 drives were a little bit concerning. You let the last couple of drives are a little bit concerning in terms of getting the ball up and down the field. The Packers were able to move into scoring range on 2 separate occasions, and they obviously scored the touchdown, and then the other one they were lining up for a potential game-winning field goal, and so there was a little bit of give at the end there. But listen, when that defense is out there for as long as they're out there, when that defense is trying everything they can to keep their team in the game, despite the fact that the Packers ran 61 plays. And, they're suffering through the Browns offense not being able to do anything. I talked about the Packers only crossing the 50 3 times. The Browns only crossed the 50 4 times. I guess technically 5 times, but all those times they crossed it, other than the final 3 times, they basically were in they were in the 40+ yard line. And so they either opted to punt, not kick field goals, all those different things. Obviously, the one time they threw the interception at the end of the half when they were throwing up a Hail Mary. So like this win does not happen without this defense setting everything in motion, and specifically the defensive line. They mucked that game up. I wish I could use another phrase, but we try to keep it pretty clean here at the Locked On Network. They mucked that game up, man. It was constant pressure on Jordan Love. He could, and then there was times like that drive in the second half that the Packers scored the touchdown on. Basically second quarter, and it was their second possession of third quarter, second possession of the second half. They marched down the field 14 plays, 76 yards, and scored a touchdown. And when that play was unfolding, you saw you could tell Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur made some adjustments where they were like, let's just take what the defense has given us. Let's just take the easy passes, dink and dunk, march their way down the field, they score. And it worked. And it kind of felt like, okay, maybe there's some give here. But the defense continued to be relentless. They continued to get after the quarterback. They started shutting even those plays down. And they did enough in this game to put the offense in position to win. It's unfortunate that the offense can't complement this group, because I'm telling you, this defense could absolutely win a Super Bowl. They are that good. And they've shown it these first 3 weeks of the season and been let down. And it's funny, like I had a whole column written that was basically about how the Browns are wasting a championship level defense this year and in 2 of the last 3 years, really. And I had to throw it all. I had to erase it all and backspace it and rewrite it because of how the game ended with the Andre Schmidt field goal.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to avoid having games where you might not be as locked in. I like to have a little bit more juice, a little bit more energy. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
There's nothing like playing against a Matt Eberflus defense to solve a lot of your problems on offense and leave you feeling a lot more confident in the direction of the Chicago Bears.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast.
I think the thing I come taking away from this Bears offensive performance more than anything else was like, this feels like, at least in the passing game, what the Ben Johnson offensive formula is supposed to look like. The whole idea of why you hired Ben Johnson was on display against this Cowboys defense, and it feels like this was a nice sort of proof of concept and showing you like, yes, that's what this is supposed to look like, and that is us seeing it working the way it is supposed to. Because the whole idea of taking what Ben Johnson did with Jared Goff and applying it to Caleb Williams is the idea that there's going to be a structure, a system that Caleb Williams can lean on and rely on, and that's going to be the bread and butter for what is 80% of your offense or whatever number you want to put on that, where you got a 3 or 5 step drop or whatever it is, and on your back foot here, you look to this receiver, you hitch, you look to that receiver, and if it's not there, then check it down, right? It's precise footwork and timing alignment to get rid of the ball quickly and decisively to an open receiver. And we saw a lot of that in this game. And then on some plays, there's just always going to be times when you can't follow the structure perfectly. Either there's an offensive line breakdown, or there's a blitz that forces you to change things up, or your receivers are covered, or whatever it's going to be. There are going to be plays when you do your drop and your hitch, and nothing that's supposed to be there is there, or it's just not the way it's supposed to be for the quarterback. And that's when you need your quarterback to be able to make plays outside of structure, outside of the pocket, scrambling and extending plays and finding an open receiver. And we've known that Caleb Williams has always been able to do that aspect. But too often in recent Bears history, the whole offense has relied on that. They haven't been able to get anything going in the structure, and they've just required Caleb Williams to have to be that playmaker when the offensive line fails and no one's open and scrambling around and trying to do something. And in this game, we got to see both. and the right mixture of both. Because you don't want to clamp down Caleb Williams too much and say, hey, don't scramble around, don't make plays, don't be a here, like don't do any of that stuff. Just be robo quarterback, because that takes away some of what makes him special. But you don't want to have him do it all the time. And this game felt like the perfect mix of both. Like, you're never calling for the playmaking, but the idea is like they got the structure to be the regular 70-80% of the whatever rate you want to call it. And then when they needed him to make plays, he did. But they didn't ask him to do it all the time, but he did it when they needed him to. And that to me is like the passing game formula that we were promised and are now really seeing fully executed for the first time. That is in part because of a better pass protection in front of him than we had seen the first 2 weeks. Some of that may be because of the offensive line settling in a little bit. I think a lot of it is also reflected by the Dallas Cowboys' general lack of pass rush. Without Micah Parsons, they don't get a ton of consistent push up front. And so Caleb had a lot of time in the pocket for plays to develop. Not that he's holding on to it for 4 seconds, but just that he doesn't have to be rushed, and he can trust that he can go through his progressions and not hurry some of those throws that end up getting overthrown or underthrown because he doesn't set his feet properly and follow through with the proper mechanics from the quarterback position. That's where you then get to the deep shots finally connecting, because he has the time, because he has the confidence, because he has the experience building in this offense to connect with Luther Burden. It's something we talked about last week on the podcast. I don't remember if it was Thursday or Friday, but I said on this show, Luther Burden's going to get a couple of deep shots in this game. I wasn't sure if they would connect, but I knew Luther Burden was going to get a couple of deep attempts in his area. And of course, hits him. Of course, the flea flicker 60-plus yard touchdown was the biggest of them. But like, those are the kind of big explosive plays then that open everything up. And then you add in first ever game for Caleb Williams' NFL career without a sack. And you don't have those negative plays holding the offense back. Only a couple of offensive penalties. No false starts as far as I can remember going back through this game. And it all builds this consistent offensive force. Even when the running game, at least the handoffs to Swift and Manungai, weren't working well, Ben Johnson finds ways to overcome and be creative. You have that 19-play drive in the third quarter where they end up going 11 straight runs on that drive. Despite DeAndre Swift and Kyle Manungai both averaging, I think, fewer than 3 yards per carry in this game, they could still sustain a drive running 11 straight times because Ben Johnson found ways to get creative and manufacture a ground game in different ways. So they do a DeAndre Swift handoff for 2 yards, and then a Caleb Williams read option, and he'd keep it, and he'd get 6 or 8 yards to give him third and short or move the chains. And they hand it off to Manungai for 2 yards. And then they do the wide receiver handoff to Olamide Zaccheaus on a jet sweep or end around, or they put DJ Moore in the backfield for a play or two. Like they just kept sprinkling in different things to manufacture an overall running game, even when the traditional handoffs to Swift and Manungai in the backfield weren't quite working the way that they needed it to. And that's something that I think is even more, I don't say even more encouraging about the Bears offense, but like the offense moved the ball pretty, I don't want to say effortlessly, but very effectively in this game without a running game. And the running game is supposed to be a huge part of what Ben Johnson's offense is and wants to be. So the fact that they put up 31 and have a lot of success against the Cowboys defense without that running game tells you just how much better this Bears offense can still be. And as albeit against the Matt Eberflus defense that is missing Micah Parsons, injuries at corner, doesn't have a pass rush, can't cover. Like, some of this was inflated against a bad Dallas Cowboys defense, for sure. The Bears are not going to look this sharp on offense every single week, but it's nice to really see it coming together. And it's also nice to know this was not their peak form, that they can, should, and will continue to get better in other ways that we'll get into some of the further improvements still to come a little bit later on the podcast. But I also want to look at this Bears defense that definitely took real steps forward against a good Dallas Cowboys offense. And I want to try and look at how they found a way to generate a pass rush and cover some receivers.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
That sucked. Florida Gators lost to the Miami Hurricanes 26-7 in what was one of the weirdest games that we've seen in a long time.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators.
It's tough. It's tough to talk about this game where I think the biggest thing to say is just there's no offense here. Like this is honestly going to be up there with Muschamp level offenses. Larry Cox, you may be glad that you don't have my job. I'll tell you this. I don't care in moments like where Florida loses by 20, which exactly like on the show this week, I said my fear is that the offense is so inept that the defense gives up some scores late and it looks really worse than it is. But look, I mean, I said all summer, I said that I thought this is a college football playoff roster, which I'm going to say this too, because I see Sam Reeves. Sam Reeves said, Brandon Sunshine pumped us all summer. What I said all summer was the Florida Gators have a college football playoff roster, but the coaching needs to catch up to the talent. That's what I said all summer. That's what I said all spring, that this is a really good roster. And if you can watch that game and you can tell me that that's not a really good roster, you're insane. That defense just played ridiculous football the entire time when the offense didn't do anything. You were right about McLean, but Ruben Bain different. I said Ruben Bain's been playing fantastic football, dominant football this season. So, no, right about that too. I think that this offense is just completely inept, right? I don't know who lit a fire under their ass that gave us one good drive in the second half. But whatever it was that happened needs to continue happening, right? Like whatever they did on that one drive. And here's the thing. I hate being the guy because, like I sit here on a podcast in a chair on the internet, not putting my body on the line, not putting everything all on the line for football, but watching these guys play, there were multiple times where you're just playing soft. That's it. There's just no other way to put it. You watch that first half, the offensive line, no push. Again, I don't care that, the defense is expecting things because you know what? I'm watching guys not get blocked at all. I'm watching guys not get pressed there. I'm watching this and I'm saying, you know what? They're not getting pushed. I'm watching the first half, the first drive defensively, 8 yards downfield every time they handed the ball off. I'm watching the defense for a lot of the game. There were times where it's just push back. And they played their bend, don't break. They did their job. They played great in coverage. Because this wasn't a game where Florida generated a ton of pressure, right? They played great in coverage there. It's just, man, there were too many times where guys were playing soft. I mean, defensive backs making business decisions there. You're a DB. If you don't want to hit someone, go figure out how to play receiver. Go figure out how to run routes. That's the kind of stuff that I think is just insane. You're a DB. Go play DB. Defensive back. Defensive. Hit someone. The amount of times that, because here's the thing, the way that Miami's offense was working in the ground game was they run it into the offensive line and the offensive line just the offensive line gets really tight and condensed, and they just move down. That's it. They just move downfield. Which you gotta take them out. You gotta just take them out. You gotta, when they've got the running back and they're all pushing them, you gotta just take them out. Because if you're getting into this fight where you're trying to push them back, like, those dudes are huge. Miami's offensive linemen are strong as hell. I think that a lot of people in this game came away with the takeaway that Miami's offense doesn't look as good as a lot of people thought they were. I think a lot of people came away with that takeaway. And maybe I think that Miami's offensive line, like they're strong as hell. And one of the big things that they get to do consistently is they get to just run the ball because they ball up like that and they just move downhill. That's it. Like Florida's defense played like it was so good. And like I know that there's a lot of people who, when I spoke about this game, I said a couple things about Carson Beck. Where I said, I think that for Florida, last time you played Carson Beck, he threw 3 picks. And it's possible that in his head, he's going to have that. And I said that I think that Florida does a really good job disguising coverages, disguising pressures, and can give him fits. And I will say this is the one thing I'll victory lap. I had a bunch of Miami fans telling me that was ridiculous and that he's going to go off on them. He didn't. He didn't go off on them. He had a bad game. He did. So I will say that that's one thing I'll lap around of that. It's exactly what I called, right? So I will say that I think that, the offense, that one drive looked pretty decent, right? It doesn't look sustainable at all. We ran a freaking QB sweep with DJ Lagway on 4th and short. That's not a situation you want to be in, right? But also, this is a team, they just have zero confidence in DJ Lagway right now. And after that touchdown drive, that was the first time he showed fire. That was it, because we haven't seen that, right? We haven't seen the fire from DJ Lagway. We haven't seen it this year. It's just not been there. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I'm not going to speculate on what's going through his mind. I'm not going to speculate on how he's acting. I'm not going to speculate on any of that. What I am going to say is that after that touchdown drive, that was the first time we saw DJ Lagway really have fire on the sideline. And that was it. And he, look, 12 for 23, 61 yards, freaking sucks, right? No one's going to dispute that. The reason that your offense is so hamstrung, the offensive line and DJ Lagway, both of them hamstrung it. I'm not talking about coaching or anything. I'm talking about playing wise. That's what it was. The 4th down pass to J. Michael Sturdivant, great throw. Better catch, great throw. The 4th down pass to TJ Abrams that was short on 4th down, not on Lagway. I don't even really think that's on Napier. I'll be honest. I think that's on TJ Abrams. I think that the play call was hitches, and it's like, all right, well, guess what? You got to get to the 1st down marker, and then you can hitch. And he didn't do that. And when you get tackled short after that, that's when things go poorly for you. Like this was a bad football game offensively. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, everybody knows that. It's one of those, and again, 26-7 looks way worse than it really was, right? Like this game was what, 7-13 up until there were 4 minutes left in the game. And sure, that touchdown, probably the dagger. I will also touch on this, the 2-point conversion call for Mario Cristobal. I know I've seen a lot of people on the Twitter timeline call it a stupid call. It wasn't. The touchdown put you up 12. You go for 2 in that situation, and then you're up 14. Because if you're up 12, or the difference between going up 12 or 13 doesn't matter, right? If you kick the PAT, you're up 13, 2 touchdowns and 2 PATs if Florida gets them. That gives them the win. If you go for 2 and you get it, that gives them the tie if they get 2 touchdowns, 2 PATs. If you go for the 2 and don't get it, you're in the same situation as if you had 13. It was the right call to go for 2 there. Absolutely. The last touchdown that Miami scored shouldn't have happened. That short drive shouldn't have happened because it was like a 20-yard drive. This game is closer than the score indicates. No one cares about that. Like, I'm not saying that to be like, oh yeah, moral victory. No, I'm just saying that to put into context of everything. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Like, that's all I'm trying to say is that you have a defense good enough to keep you in games with anyone for a very long time. And like the defense did a hell of a job. They really did. Because once again, the offense put the defense in crappy spot after crappy spot. And I know that at halftime, the commentators or the sideline reporter was like, oh, well, Billy Napier said that the reason that the offense has been so bad is because they've been pinned back every single time. That's not entirely true. You weren't pinned back to open the game when you lost yards. You weren't pinned back to open the game when you had negative yards on that drive. Because you weren't, right? You weren't pinned back on the next drive that you had after Miami scored a touchdown. You had a touchback there. You weren't pinned back. You still did nothing. You weren't pinned back the next drive when, oh, look, another touchback. You weren't pinned back on those. You had 3 drives that started with touchbacks, and you didn't do a damn thing on them. So I don't want to hear, oh, yeah, our offense can't get going because we've been pinned back. Your offense can't get going because your offense can't get going, and that's on you as a coach. I hate that loser mentality of like, oh, well, it's because we kept getting pinned back. No, that's not what happened at all. It was horrible. It was, I think, an awful coaching display, an awful coaching experience, an awful coaching performance. I think that it was, I think that this is one of those games where I said this last year at some point. I think that there are certain games where you look at it and you go, hey, that was embarrassing. And it was embarrassing. Don't say Billy Napier outcoached Mario Cristobal. What happened was Ron Roberts outcoached Shannon Dawson. That's what happened. That's what it was. Because Billy Napier didn't outcoach a damn thing at all. And again, similar to me talking about how when I criticize players, it's like, I know it's easy for me to say that. I'm sitting in a chair doing a podcast. No one's coming to hit me. Like, I get that. I get that it's easier for me to say these things than to go do them. But the fact that pretty much everybody can unanimously agree that, hey, things aren't working on offense and you're not adapting from them. And the one drive where you did adapt from them, holy crap. You scored a touchdown. The only time you scored, the time where if you didn't have that change in play calling, or whether that's you gave up whether you gave the sticks over for a second or whatever it was, if you didn't have that drive, you would have been shut out for the first time in my life.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to avoid having games where you might not be as locked in. I like to have a little bit more juice, a little bit more energy. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
They said Indiana couldn't beat a quality opponent. They said Kurt Signetti couldn't beat a ranked team.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Have the doubters been silenced tonight? Did Kurt Signetti prove that he is the man, that he's one of the best coaches in all of college football, and that Indiana is legitimate? All we heard throughout the offseason was that Indiana's non-conference schedule was weak. All we've heard over the past several weeks is, Old Dominion's not that good. Kennesaw State's a joke. Wow, you played Indiana State last week. Wow, you guys are real prepared for the number 9 ranked team in the country. And Indiana did exactly what they did a year ago in big-time games. They were prepared, they were ready, and most importantly, they executed. And they absolutely demolished Illinois at home in the biggest game in Memorial Stadium history, one of the most hyped-up games all week long, and what was supposed to be really entertaining ended up just being an absolute
rout for Indiana over the Fighting Illini. Welcome into this Locked On Hoosiers live show. Come on in, give your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Again, we're live. I've got it pulled up over here. We've got about a minute left on this game, but wanted to go ahead and get in here and get you guys involved. And so drop your thoughts down in the YouTube comments, man. How are you feeling about Indiana's win over Illinois? If you're a Hoosiers fan, let me know. If you happen to be an Illinois fan and you're here, let me know how you guys are taking this. And if you're on the outside looking in, we want to hear from you as well. There's a lot to get to on this show. We're going to cover some of the big plays, some of the big moments. We'll do some stat comparisons, kind of what happens next. And we always do likes and dislikes on these live shows as well. So again, drop your thoughts. We're going to go through a lot of those on the back end of the show as well. But I mean, what a dominating win for Indiana. It's going final as I look at it. 63-10 is officially the final score. Indiana beats Illinois. Number 19 takes down number 9. And it's almost like Las Vegas knows a little something, huh? It's almost like Vegas is kind of good at this whole betting thing. I'll admit, I was worried. I was worried when the betting lines came out and Indiana was a favorite here. And then I was worried that it just kept growing and growing and growing. And by the time that this game kicked off, Indiana was a touchdown favorite, if not more, depending on where you looked. But my goodness, did they know something that not everybody did? I felt very confident that Indiana could win this football game. I felt very confident that Indiana was the more talented team in this football game. And I also felt that Indiana had the better coach in this football game. But I don't care who you are. Nobody predicted 63-10 in a rout that Indiana put on in this football game. Man, some of the stat comparisons here are truly, truly incredible. Indiana outgains Illinois in total yards, 579 to 161. Indiana's rushing total. This thing did not look good in the first quarter, but this might be the most lopsided stat of the night. How about rushing yards? Indiana, 312 yards on the ground in this game. Illinois, 2. You have a hand, right or left? Pick one. That's how many. You need just 2 fingers to hold up how many rushing yards that Illinois had as a team on the ground tonight. Indiana also throws it for 328 yards. Illinois, just 51 through the air. And just so many lopsided things here that you can point out in the stat sheet. Indiana runs 72 plays compared to their 45. How about this? 31 first downs for Indiana compared to just 9 for that Illinois offense. I mean, it was really, really fun to watch. And of course, it all started with a special teams touchdown. How about D'Angelo Ponds getting involved? We know he's one of the best corners in all of college football. He's an All-American and somebody that's going to be playing on Sundays. But to start the game with a blocked punt that he recovers and then scores on a touchdown where he had to break the tackle from the punter to get into the end zone, you knew something special was going to happen. And you knew that that was something that Indiana thrives on because they did that a year ago, right? They used big special moments like that to just build and rout really good teams. That's what Indiana did here. You're up 7-0, and then Illinois responds. They respond in a big way with a big touchdown pass from Luke Altmaier. In that first quarter, it was a 59-yard touchdown pass from Luke Altmaier, and a play that was really more on Indiana than it was on Illinois. But they took advantage. It was a miscommunication between Amari Farrell, your safety, and D'Angelo Ponds, your corner. Safety came up, corner stopped running, dude was wide open. All right, that's fine. Wasn't super pumped about it, but Illinois responded, 7-7. And then Indiana said, yeah, we're going to be done with that. We're going to be done with that. We're going to throw it to E.J. Williams for a touchdown. We're going to throw it to Omar Cooper for a touchdown. We're going to throw it to Elijah Surratt twice for a touchdown. Noah Kowski's going to get involved for a touchdown. Heck, even our third-string running back is going to have a couple of touchdowns in this game. And the Hoosiers had enough and absolutely opened up a can on Illinois in this football game. Man, this was one of the more fun games that I have watched and covered for Indiana maybe ever across any sport. Because the Hoosiers did this to several teams last year. If you've been around for just a little bit, this is not a new result. This is not a crazy thing that Indiana blows out a team. It's the fact that it was a 9th ranked team in the country. This was a top 20 matchup in Bloomington, and the Hoosiers proved every single person wrong. Because everybody picked Illinois. Everybody on ESPN, everybody on CBS, everybody here at Locked On. Nobody wanted to pick Indiana in this game. I did. I felt confident. Things had to go right. Fernando Mendoza had to play well. He did. The running game had to do what it needed to do. It did. The defense had to perform at its highest level, and they absolutely did. Now, I do want to address a couple of things for Illinois. I understand that their secondary was extremely banged up. I know that. Know that it was coming in that way. We learned, right, that probably their best DB was unavailable for this game. You were then down 2 DBs for Illinois, and then the targeting call. And I do want to address it quickly. We won't hang on it too long here. I did not agree with the targeting call. I'm just going to be really, really honest here. I didn't think that was worthy of a targeting and worthy of an ejection. Now, I think by definition with the rule, yes, I just kind of disagree with how the rule is written. And for that to be one of Illinois' best players in the secondary, while they were already down some dudes, that was a crucial point in this game. It absolutely was. It was a turning point, and Illinois they were desperate at that point. And give Indiana credit, you knew they were going to throw the ball anyway, but then they really hammered down and they said, all right, we're going to let Fernando Mendoza have some fun. And he absolutely did with some of the best receivers in college football. So I understand that Illinois in the secondary couldn't hang and maybe they weren't up to their best. But ladies and gentlemen, I sent out a tweet or a post on our Locked On Hoosiers X page. Make sure you go and follow that at Locked On Hoosiers. I sent out a post and it says this. Let me go find it really quick, just to make sure I get my wording right here. I sent out a post that says, hey, remember last season when Indiana lost big games because it could not compete in the trenches, right? Ohio State, Notre Dame, even Michigan was kind of iffy too last year. Remember when Indiana couldn't win games because they were losing in the trenches? I think that problem's solved now, don't you? I think that problem may not be a problem anymore. Indiana bullied Illinois in this game on both sides of the ball. On the offensive line for the Hoosiers, who gave Fernando Mendoza plenty of time. I know he got sacked a couple of times, but there was never real pressure on him. There was never real threat of him getting hit big time, losing the football, having to rush a play. And the few times that he did, he just scrambled and picks up first downs because that's what Fernando Mendoza does. But it's the flip side of the football. That Indiana defensive line may have had the most fun out of anybody. I mean, holy smokes, man. Indiana in this game. Are you ready for this? This Indiana defense had 10 tackles for loss. Okay. 10 tackles for loss, 7 total sacks as a defense for the Indiana Hoosiers tonight. And then they pick up the late interception with Amari Farrell as well. I don't know which side of the ball to be more impressed with. Is it the offense putting up 63 points and making it just look easy like they were playing a JV school? Or was it the defense who just shut down Luke Altmaier and Beatty, who I know he got banged up, but ended up coming back as far as I know and saw them out there. But there was just no time for Luke Altmaier to be this big and bad quarterback that people said he was. Indiana doubted every single person in the country tonight that didn't believe in them. Kurt Signetti deserves a lot of credit. This coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. And this entire team deserves a lot of credit for blocking out the noise, not listening to it, worrying about what they can control, and beating a really good football team in Illinois. Okay, they're still a really good team, but Indiana just proved they're on a different level. 63-10 final score. Hoosiers take down the Illini in the biggest game in Indiana football home game history, and it really wasn't even close.